Welcome back, Raiders. We have a bunch of Arc Raiders news, 3 articles from Games Radar and 1 from PC Games In. We're going to cover PvE escalation, talking about the giant arc in the background and shredders escaping, auction house or trading system between players, player hubs. We're also going to talk about the terrible skills and potential buffs coming to skill trees in the future. And finally, the roadmap and multiple maps coming this year. Strap in. If you're looking for the YouTube live streams, ad-free, there'll be a link down below to the unlisted playlist. Click on that. All right, let's start with PvE escalation. They spoke about the endgame arc, as in the Queen and the Matriarch, with the design lead Virgil Watkins confirming that they don't want all PvE endgame arc to be 6-legged spidery robots, but they do want to escalate the experience for the PvE players. Intentionally pretty vague, but I think it's clear that they're thinking about how to give PvE players more endgame experiences. And part of that conversation is they were mentioning how players have just got a lot better at the game. Go figure. Not only because they have leveled up their workbenches and they have better tools and weapons to use, but players in general have just figured out the attack patterns and are mastering the PvE sandbox. And they want to make sure that the PvE side of stuff stays threatening. When asked about those giant walking mountains in the background that you see on Blue Gate, Watkins said this: "I'm not going to say that you're going to meet one anytime soon, but obviously you see the giant walking ones in the background and stuff. That's what we're trying to show some contrast with as we go forward." Not 100% sure what that means, but I guess that's what he's saying. We want to keep things exciting and threatening. They confirmed their ambitions were large, but also needs to be practical for the servers, and if you add those right now, the servers might explode. Considering Arc Raiders started off as a PvE boss kind of game from watching their developer interviews, I have no doubt we'll see some more big PvE challenges in the future. One thing that Watkins did confirm was variants, which is pretty cool. It reminded me a lot of Helldivers, because Helldivers has like enemy variants in it. And he said, looking at things like, we use the term variants, but it's like, what does this look like with an adjustment to its attack pattern or weapon loadout or armor or things like that? So we can create distinct gameplay changes while using the platforms we have, but trying to avoid just being like, oh, they painted the wasp blue, and here it is. So we want to be a little careful about that. Not to say that simple variants don't have their place, but we want to make sure that they are actually serving a purpose in the ecosystem we have. I would definitely welcome some variants to the current arc. Obviously, I want to see new stuff too, but I think variants would be cool. And finally, on the topic of PvE escalation, in terms of the shredders, they will eventually escape Stella Montis, saying that they are currently in Stella Montis, but they'll figure out how to get out of there eventually. Now let's chat about player trading. Thankfully, they are very aware of the dangers of player trading and how player markets can undermine extraction games. From my experience in other extraction shooters, I feel the exact same way that Watkins does. He said, "We previously explored and even partially built a trading system like an auction house, but what it ended up doing is turn the game into just being about coins, going in and finding items that are worth the most value, changing them into coins and just buying the things you want. Now you have very little care about what's going on, exploring the correct location and searching the right containers, or feeling cool in doing that. Oh, finally, I needed this thing and now I can go and do the other thing I wanted to do with it," right? Completely and utterly agree. It makes me very happy that they understand this and they tested this and they don't like it, because I like the way the game is at the moment without an auction house. So even though we won't get that, what they did speak about is trying to improve the player-to-player experience in match. For example, being able to hold out an item and then begin a trade with someone else. Seems like a cool idea. I mean, obviously it exists in other games like Path of Exile. You can do player trading. You know, click on them in game and trade with them. You lock in your trades and then it's confirmed, then everyone gets the trade. I don't know if this system would worsen real money player trading. If you don't know, it currently exists in the game. They keep reaching out to me. Stop, by the way. I'm not taking a sponsorship. It's against the terms of service for the game to accept real money to trade something else. but it already exists. All right, so people buy blueprints off a market, they meet them up in game and they trade for it. I don't know if something like this would make that easier for people, or people feel more comfortable to, you know, use those third-party websites to actually buy blueprints and buy loot from other people. I'm not too sure. It's not a huge priority on my personal list. Player hubs. In the PC Games N article, there was a brief conversation about player hubs. Player hubs similar to what you see in like Warframe or Destiny 2, which is like a social hub where you can see everyone's outfits and their cosmetics and the end dress game. But the traders are also there as well, so you can buy your stuff from the traders. And essentially Embark have spoken about it and they like the feel of it, but they don't really like the function of something like that. They want people to efficiently get back into raids without physically having to run backwards and forwards between traders. And I'd tell you what, that would probably annoy me too, because I get annoyed with the current system and the current UI, and I kind of wish my priority would actually be if they could streamline the crafting system. My God, having to go backwards and forwards between like the refiner and whatever thing I need to craft. I need to craft like 3 of those to make 1 of those to finally make the shield that I want to make or the weapon I want to make. I would love for there to be some efficiency in that menu system for crafting, because I love crafting and I prefer to craft stuff than just find it. Skills and buffs. Let's talk about the skill tree. Embark are well aware that the skill tree and the skills specifically in them need some modification, and some skills need complete reworks. As an example, they mentioned how the melee skills are outdated, and previously they were more relevant for a previous build of the game with how the melee system worked, but now they're just not very practical. And they mentioned that other skills seem relevant, but even when they're like 5 out of 5 fully leveled, they just don't really feel very impactful. What was more interesting though, and I don't think this has been confirmed before, but they actually spoke a little bit about additional skill points and the expedition, saying, so we'd have to be quite deliberate. The current intent is skill points will not be the reward forever with expeditions. It will cap out at some point to whatever kind of makes sense. The intent is that you've done enough expeditions to have, say, the full amount of extra skill points available to you. You've got maybe a couple of slightly quality of life changes. Like I can have a little extra stamina and still do security breach and maybe be more quieter, or whatever the constellation of those points that you've allocated is. But it shouldn't be like you've maxed out 2 branches of the skill tree entirely and then not have it matter for the rest. So yeah, I definitely thought you will be able to eventually max out your entire skill tree if you kept doing every expeditions, but it seems like they are going to put a cap on that at some point, and you're not going to get extra skill points for expeditions. All right, let's talk about new maps and the roadmap. Finally, let's have a chat about it. They have confirmed that we'll get a roadmap soon, TM, and that will confirm the cadence of content released this year. In the PC Games N article, it spoke about how selling 12 million copies of the game has opened a lot of doors. Who would have thought? They got heaps of cash now and fueled sort of big plans for the future. So I do get the impression that whatever plans they had before the game released have slightly changed, and that's why it's taken a little bit of time to get a roadmap out, and they're reconfiguring the roadmap, hopefully with some bigger ideas in it. What they did confirm was this: there are going to be multiple maps coming this year. I think it's going to be across a spectrum of size to try to facilitate different types of gameplay. So you might see some that are smaller, you might see some that are even grander than what we've got now. Pretty cool. One of the things that Watkins emphasized is the experience of each map and that everything is cohesive. I think Stella Montes is a good example of this. It was an indoor map, which it really did originally encourage a lot of PvP, but once people worked out aggression-based matchmaking, you can definitely have friendly lobbies in Stella Montes. But by map design, it was a very PvP-focused map indoor, and also just had, you know, the introduction of new arc being the shredders that like chased you through this maze. And Stella Montes, when you first start playing it, is an absolute maze, and eventually you get used to it. But it was that experience of a maze-like map being pursued by a shredder that was also like a lot of tension with PvP. It was an experience in itself, and a lot of the maps also have that. Watkins said this: the ambition is to try to pair it with some new type of experience, whether that's the map conditions or weather conditions, or we put in it that make it play and feel different, enemy types or compositions feeling different, or we're escalating the types of loot available there. Honestly, I like every single map in Arc Raiders. Someone always asks me what's my favorite map is. I like them all. I think they're all just bloody cool, and they give you unique experiences. I like the PvP in Stellar. I like the central launch tower in Spaceport. Like every time I load into Spaceport and you see the giant like launch tower in the middle, I'm like, God damn, that's cool. Or like running on the rooftops in Buried City, or running through the buildings in Buried City. Like everything is incredibly unique, and I love that about Arc Raiders. So, you know, that's obviously what they're working on for new maps. So make sure you get an experience each time. Well, there you have it. That's all your news for the moment. I've bundled it all together in one tight little package. If you'd like to support the channel, like and comment. Greatly appreciate it. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.